Most people think wealth starts with money. It doesn't. It starts with perception. There is a version of this story that ends in disaster. Debt you can't dig out of. A character you built so carefully that you forgot it wasn't real. A life that looks successful from every angle, except the one that matters. But there is another version. One where the performance, somewhere along the way, stops being performance. Where the person you were pretending to be, slowly, quietly, becomes the person you actually are. This is that second version. But don't mistake it for a comfortable story. Because the thing nobody tells you about faking it until you make it is what it actually costs you to get there. Not in dollars, in distance, in the gap between who you were and who you had to become. Pay attention to that gap. That's where everything happens.
Stage 1. The costume. You buy the belt first. Not because you need it. You already have a belt. You buy it because it has a small gold buckle with 2 interlocking letters. And when you wear it to the office, the new intern asks if it's designer. You say nothing. You just smile. That smile costs you $148. You are 24. You make $41,000 a year before taxes. Your rent is $970 a month. You have $2,300 in a savings account you treat more like a waiting room than a real plan. But here's what you notice after the belt. People treat you differently. Not dramatically. Subtly. The hostess seats you faster. The leasing agent gives you the full tour. Your coworkers start asking where you're spending your weekends.
You aren't going anywhere. But you say you're keeping it low-key. That's also a performance. What you've stumbled into, without reading a word about it, is the first uncomfortable truth of modern social life. How you appear determines how you are treated. And how you are treated begins to shape what you are allowed to become. You post a photo of the skyline from a friend's rooftop. No caption, just a location tag from a neighborhood slightly nicer than yours. 47 likes in an hour. You check it 14 times before you fall asleep. Something has been activated that you cannot turn off.
Stage 2. The system. 6 months in, the costume becomes a strategy. You put $600 on a credit card for a suit. You wear it to a networking event at a downtown hotel that charges $35 at the door and serves room temperature wine in plastic cups. You walk in like you belong somewhere better. You meet a man in commercial real estate. He asks what you do. You say your job title, then add that you're exploring other opportunities. You have no other opportunities. But the sentence lands like you were someone in motion, and he hands you his card. What you've discovered is that networking is partly theater. The real currency exchanged isn't information. It's perceived status. People align with people they believe are going somewhere. The trick is to look like you're already there.
You start reading, not motivation. You read profiles of founders. You study their vocabulary, words that signal seriousness, capital allocation, asymmetric risk, optionality. You don't use them randomly. You learn what they actually mean, because anyone can parrot language, but only some people can back it up. You refine your LinkedIn like it's a separate product. You post twice a week. You share a small opinion, stated with just enough confidence to read as someone who has earned it. You haven't earned it yet. But the line between performing a belief and holding one is thinner than most people admit. The real estate man emails you 3 weeks later. Drinks with a few people. Do you want to come? You take the subway there. You Uber home so no one sees. Stage 3. The debt behind the image. Here is what nobody says out loud. Faking it costs money. At 26, you have $7,400 in credit card debt. The suit, the watch, a $65 haircut at a place with exposed brick, a business magazine subscription you mostly use for aesthetic Instagram stories. None of this is investment. All of it is overhead. And yet, something strange is also happening. Because of the image, because of the rooms you got into, you were referred for a new job. Better title, $61,000 a year. The man who refers you is the real estate contact. He mentions it casually at dinner, and you accept like you'd been expecting it.
You weren't expecting it, but this moment breaks something open in your understanding of how opportunity actually moves. You had the skills at the old job. You'd had them for 2 years with nothing to show for it. What changed was visibility. What changed was the version of you that lived in other people's minds. The raise gives you breathing room. You pay down $1,200 on the high-interest card. You screenshot the new balance. You don't send it to anyone. You just look at it for a long time. For the first time, a number moved in the right direction because of a decision you made. That's not small. That's the beginning.
Stage 4. The first real thing. You are 27. You've been saving $700 a month for 8 months. You have $5,600 you haven't touched. You look at it like it's fragile. You open a brokerage account and put in $2,000. You buy an index fund. The market dips the next day. You almost pull it out. You don't pull it out. That is the decision. Not the account, not the investment. The choice not to react. Real financial literacy is mostly psychological. It is the ability to sit with discomfort without flinching.
You start a newsletter. 43 subscribers, mostly people you went to school with, writing about personal finance and investing in real time as you learn it. The writing forces clarity. You understand things more deeply when you have to explain them to someone else. The newsletter grows to 600 people. You join an affiliate program. You make $140 in 1 month from something you wrote at your kitchen table. The number is almost meaningless in size. What it means is enormous. Something you built, earned while you were asleep. You screenshot the dashboard. You don't send it to anyone. You just look at it the same way you looked at that first paid down credit card balance. Both times, the feeling is the same. A small door opening. And you are the one who opened it.
Stage 5. When perception becomes position. The newsletter hits 10,000 subscribers. You launch a paid tier at $8 a month. 71 people subscribe on day 1. That is $568 of recurring monthly income from a document you wrote at night while eating leftovers. You take on 2 consulting clients. You charge $350 for a 2-hour session. They pay. You raise it to $500. They still pay. At 31, you leave the salaried job. You sit in your car for a long time after the last day. You have 8 months of expenses saved. Recurring revenue. Something real enough to bet on. The first year, the business generates $120,000. You pay yourself $72,000 and reinvest the rest. Your net worth crosses $100,000 on a Thursday afternoon at a coffee shop. The number loads in your spreadsheet. You close the laptop. You order another coffee. You look out the window. It doesn't feel the way you imagined it would. It feels quieter than that. More like finishing a sentence you've been writing for 7 years than anything resembling a celebration.
Stage 6. The honest ending.
Let's be precise about what this story is. It is not a story about how pretending to be rich makes you rich. That would be a lie dressed up as inspiration, and those are the most expensive things you can consume. It is a story about how performance, when you're honest about what it actually is, can function as a bridge. The belt wasn't magic. The networking event wasn't magic. What they did was move you into proximity with information and people and a standard of thinking you would never have encountered if you had stayed where you were and waited. The performance created the exposure. The exposure created the learning. The learning created the decisions. The decisions compounded.
That is the real sequence. It is slower and less cinematic than the version told at conferences. It involves more debt and more loneliness and more midnight spreadsheets than anyone usually admits. It also cost things that don't show up in a net worth calculation. Friendships that quietly loosened. An identity you outgrew before you were ready to. Years of carrying two versions of yourself in one body. None of that cancels the outcome, but it is part of the outcome. Somewhere tonight, someone is buying something they cannot afford to signal something they don't yet have. Maybe that's the beginning of something real. Maybe they put the card away, go home, and open a spreadsheet instead. The machine runs either way. It just runs faster when you stop performing and start building.